Welcome to Kimsey Software's MetalTrax training series. This is video 3, Setting Up MetalTrax. Customers by Kyle Kimsey.
This is the third video in the MetalTrax training series, video 3, Setting Up Customers. If you have not viewed Setting Up 1 and 2, you may want to go back and review through those setup videos before you click on this video. But if not, this can also be used as a standalone video. What we've done is, in the previous videos, we've set up under miscellaneous our branches, our warehouses, our users, our bank accounts, our ship via values, and also done some in the feature initialization. We are now ready to input a customer and describe to you some of the different things that you can do from the customer screen. So I'm going to click on Accounts Receivable. Under Accounts Receivable, here's our sub menus. I'm going to go to Master Files and we're going to click on Customers. Now when you click on Customers, you're going to get the following screen. At this point, we have no customers in. If you did a lookup, it should say no customers have been defined. So we're going to go define a customer called ABC Metal Products. I'm going to click on the New button. Now the customer ID can be a number or it can be a combination of letters and numbers. So in this case, I'm going to assume that our customer ID is a kind of an alphanumeric customer ID. So I may say ABC 001. Now again, you're going to quickly find that it really doesn't matter what your customer ID is. I'll set up two customers. One's going to be an ABC 001 and the other is going to be a number. At this point, I come down to the name and I'm going to do a cap locks, type in ABC Building Products. You may want to always do either upper and lowercase or all uppercase. I like to do all uppercase because it's easy to read. Lookup description is not required, neither is the default warehouse, but if you type it in, it means when that customer is ordering something and you're on the sales order screen, it'll default to the default warehouse. Lookup description, if you have a lot of ABCs or a lot of Smiths or a lot of a certain name of customers, you may want to have a lookup description be what city they're in. In this case, if they are in Los Angeles, I may want to say Los Angeles, just so I know that they're the ABC Building Products in Los Angeles. On the customer type, now you notice if you get this, and I turn this on just so you see, if you ever have black, that means it's required if the label's in black. In this case, I have that the customer type is required. So I would have to set up customer types. If you do not want your customer types to be required, customer types would be if you're tracking things like an A customer, B customer, C customer. So in this case, I'm saying they're required. If they are required, you have to click under customers and we have to set up some customer types. Under the customer type maintenance screen, I'm going to click N for new and I'm going to type A. And these are my A type customers, maybe my best customers. I'm also going to make one called B, which is my B type customers. And then I'll do C and I click on the new button, notice, and say C is C type customers. And save. If you do not want your customer type, in this case, I'm going to say this is an A-type customer. If you do not want your customer type required, nor are you going to maybe track your customer types, we're going to take a little detour. You can come over here to miscellaneous, to feature initialization, come down to list your features, and let's say you want the word type. You notice it says make customer type a required field. You can turn it to no and save it. When you do that, however, keep in mind that that will not take effect until you close down your customer maintenance screen and reopen it up again. If they've been a customer for a long time, you can type it in. If it's a new customer, you can hit enter and it will put in today's date. Now my outside sales reps, in the very first training video, we set up Jen Johnson as both an outside and an inside sales rep. In this case, let's say Jen Johnson is one of my outside sales reps. Now what I'm going to do is some of these I'm not going to key on too much. This template sales order, if you have a customer that calls in all the time with the same exact number, the same exact type of sales order, you can have a template sales order for that customer when you bring it in, so it'll automatically default to that sales order and then you can make little changes to it. In this case, for right now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the template, the federal tax ID, the default PO number, or the SIC code. But I am going to come down here to comments. This is where you would put comments that would appear on the sales order screen to the sales rep. The customer shouldn't see these comments. So maybe you want to put something like, great customer, please talk to John if you have any issues with this customer. Maybe John is one of my fellow employees and it's saying to talk to him because he is over their account. Now, you notice right here, if the customer is marked as inactive, they won't show up on some of the screens, so you don't want to do that. PO required, however, will mean that on the sales screen, the sales order entry screen, a PO, a customer PO will be required. In this case, I also want statements for this customers, so I'm going to click on yes for statements. That means when I'm printing my statements, it will go out and look at for all customers that have that checked and print a statement for any of those customers. Now, here's under credit information, the pay type. Some people will do a lookup here and they'll change the pay type. For the most part, if you are going to be processing your payments and even your COD checks through your accounts receivable, choose 5 for your terms code. If you choose anything other than 5 here, like a prepaid cash COD or cash, on your when you do a sales order for this customer, it's going to be required that you put in the payment at the time of the sales order. So if your sales reps do not receive in cash or handle cash, leave that at 5. And when you come down here, we will then talk about the terms in a minute. So in this case, let's say this customer, I'm going to give them $25,000 credit terms. Now you notice at the terms code, I haven't set any terms up. So when I look, it says no credit terms have been defined. Leave the screen open. We're going to go define a few of those. We're going to go under accounts receivable, come over to credit terms. I'm going to click on the new button. I'm going to define a few credit terms. These can be numbers or letters or alphanumeric letters and numbers. So I'm going to say N30. We're going to do a net 30 days. And when you do that, it's going to prompt for a grace period. Make sure that you fill this in correctly. If you don't, just because you say net 30 days, but you don't put net 30 days here, it's going to treat it like a cash customer. So in this case, I don't want to show my prices on the shippers, so I'm just going to put 30, and then I'm going to save this. The next one I'm going to do is new, and I'm going to do COD. This is a COD customer, and I'm going to put in net 0. That will make it so it's COD. The last one I'm going to do is a half percent 10 net 30. So in this case, I'm just going to put any terms code I want in to show you that you could even do number 3, or I could do a half net 30. I could put in anything I want in there, and it's going to be half percent, 10 days, net 30. At this point, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to put in half percent, 10 days, net 30. So that's what's going to be configured for this system. If you choose any of these, it's going to be half percent discount if they pay in 10 days, but net 30 days. I now save that, and I'm back in my customer screen. At this point, that customer is a net 30, so I'm going to give him a net 30. And it pops down to my credit hold. On the credit hold, you have options down here. You can do A for always. That will always put them on credit hold. R for hold as required, or N for never. Stopped is if you have a bad customer that's a bad credit risk and you don't even want the sales rep to be able to put in a sales order for that customer. So I'm going to do hold as required. That's the most common one. I'm going to bypass the quick notes for now because we haven't talked about the quick note screen. And I'm going to leave all the pricing information right now as default. And please do that right until you speak with us or until we go through further training. Leave everything at default. You're now ready to put in contacts and addresses. In this case, I'm going to put in one contact. I'm going to come here and I'm going to do it's a purchasing contact. Somebody who will typically call in the customer, the employee at the customer site that will call in and be giving you a sales order. I'm going to make sure they're primary contact. And I'm going to say in this case, it's Mark. His last name is Franklin. I can put any home pagers. You notice a pager in here. Those can be renamed. but it's key to come in here and put in an email. In this case, it's markf@gmail.com. If Mark's going to be getting invoices, I can even send him, click on here and say that he gets email copies of his invoices. But for the most part, he would probably, as a salesperson, he probably wouldn't be getting those invoices. And so you can say that he's not getting those invoices. But in this case, maybe I'll send him a printed copy. You can also say if he wants to receive his mill test reports, you can do the same thing. In this case, I'm going to save the purchasing contact. And I'm going to do one other that's going to be our accounts payable contact. Now this is the primary billing contact, and maybe this is Lori, and her last name is White. I'm very creative with my last names. And in this case, she will be getting the invoices, so we're going to say Lori at AOL.com. Takes me back a few years. And to send the invoice, we're going to say here that she's going to get an emailed copy of the invoices because she's an accounts payable person. If you have anybody that's set up as an accounts payable contact, as the primary billing contact, and you have this set and have it to include an email, when you go to print your invoices, she will get an emailed copy of it. You can also say that she should get a printed or a fax copy. We're going to save it. That's how you put in contacts, and you can have as many contacts as you want. If you wanted to do a new contact, you just click on New on the New button. We're going to move on from there, and we're going to do the address. In this case, we're going to start with the main address. And let's say ABC Building Products is at 340 West Bell Street. Now, at their zip code, if you know the zip code and you type in 89070 and hit enter, and if that's one of their zip codes, you can type it in. You notice this is a zip code in Indian Springs, Nevada. Now, any zip code you type in here, it should go up and find that corresponding city and state. If it doesn't, then you will probably want to change it. In this case, as I showed you in video 2, where you could go change the zip code. In this case, I'm going to say this is their Nevada branch. And on the shipping, you notice it brings in the same thing, but it just prompts for the tax code. So if you want to type in a tax code, you can, or in this case, I'm going to put NT. Now this is important. You can have a different shipping address here. So let's say I change my shipping address, and the shipping address is 1098 Main Street. Has the same zip code. Notice it cleared it once I hit through the zip code, so I have to type in my tax code. Now here's the resale number. If you have anything in this resale number, when you go to the sales order, it will default that sales order to be non-taxable. So even if you had a tax code in here of Nevada or Arizona or whatever the tax code is, it'll look at that resale number and make the order non-taxable. And that's anything, even if you have a letter or anything in here. So I just wanted to explain that to you. If they have a resale that's going to expire at maybe the first of the year, you can put that in and then run some reports for when they expire. In this case, I'm going to say I'm not going to put in a max skid weight for the truck, nor am I going to set up a route ID. We will do that in one of the corresponding videos. But if you do want to set up a route ID, remember those were under miscellaneous, master files, and geography, and you could set up your route IDs. I am going to, however, on the ship via, I am going to set up that the ship via is by our truck. And at this point, if I wanted to add any comments to appear on the shipper, I could add comments like, make sure to deliver around back on dock number 3. That would appear on the shippers and on the picking list and on the external shipping documents to your truck drivers. You can also set up alternate ship-to addresses. This is where you could set up to 9,999 alternate ship-to addresses for each customer. These can also be set on the fly by the sales rep on the sales order. But I'm going to do one now where let's say ABC Building Products, the owner that also has an ABC and Sons distribution. I can set that up. That can maybe be a complete different address. And it may even be a completely different zip code. that point, you can make sure to put in your tax codes, any resale or tax ID certificates, and any lookup description if you wanted to say, this is his ABC and Sons division in Utah. Okay? I'm going to save by hitting the save button, and now I'm going to close that down. I'm now done with setting up my main and my shipping and some alternate shipping addresses. If I wanted different billing addresses or purchase physical address or purchase mailing address, I can change them or I can leave them the same. In this case, I'm going to leave them the same, and I'm going to hit the save button. When you're all done, you can, because I set up in the other features, I can hit escape or that close button. I just hit escape and I'm done. If you wanted to change anything, you could. If you put this and said, wait a minute, I put Los Angeles, but this is obviously their Nevada division, you can change it there and save it. This right here will save and clear the screen. This will save and keep the screen on ABC Building Products. I'm going to save and clear. And that is the setup for the customer maintenance. Now, the one thing that we didn't do is put in any notes. To show you the notes, if you type in ABC here again, and if I just hit enter, now you notice our customer ID was ABC like 100. But if you just start typing the partial name, it will go out there and look up any name that begins with ABC. So even if your customer ID was a number, just start typing ABC and it'll pull up all the customer names that begin with ABC. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll see a little bit later. So now I'm going to bring up the customer, and I can add notes. This can be done at any time. You can click on the end for notes. I can click on new, and I can say today's date, and maybe I want to say this is a friend of John's. Treat with care. And maybe I don't want a follow-up date. If I do want a follow-up date in here, it will give me a little note on that date that tells me, so maybe you want to call them at a certain date and sell them a different type of product. You can do that as well. That's the customer notes. As I saved it, that put in a customer note. We're now going to get on to our next customer, but we're going to make a little change. Remember, I told you I'm going to set up 2 customers. This next one's going to go a little bit quicker. I'm going to close down the screen. We're going to move over to the feature initialization screen. And remember when I told you that we could set it up so your customers could just be filled in automatically with the next available customer number. That's what we're going to do. We're going to say we want the system to select the next numeric customer, yes, and the next numeric customer is 5,000. Now what we did is I went into feature initialization number 2112. I save it, and now I'm going to get out of the feature initialization screen. Let's go back to the accounts receivable screen, click on customer. But this time when I click on new, watch what happens. As soon as I hit enter, it puts in our 5,000. Now this one, let's say, is Benson Metals Inc. I'm going to put in Benson Metals Inc. I'm not going to do a lookup. I'm not going to do a customer type. I'm going to come right down and say he's been a customer since 2015. You notice I just typed in 15 and it knew that it was 2015. It assumes that this customer hasn't been in since 1915, but if you wanted that, you could type in 1915. On your outside sales reps, I'm going to say Jen is the outside sales rep here, and I'm not going to put any comments in. But I am going to say that the PO is required and so are the statements. At this point, I'm going to put in a pay type of 5, as we mentioned, credit limit of 50,000, and our credit terms, in this case, I can do a lookup, remember, F2 or binocular, and I'm going to choose 0.5% 10 net 30. Hold as required. This one is such a good customer, I never want to hold him, so I'm going to say N for hold. That means no matter what they order, they're not going to be held, so be careful with that one. We're going to not put any contacts in this one, and even on the address, we're just going to put in one address here, and it's going to be the same address. So let's say he's at 450 and the 450 Eastern Boulevard. The zip code, if I can type in any zip code, 90210, let's say. We know that is Beverly Hills. I'm not going to fill in any telephone or fax, and on the shipping, I'm just going to make sure it brings in the same thing, but I'm going to say NT for non-taxable on the tax code. Everything else, I'm going to leave the same. So you can set up customers very quickly, close down the screen. Now I'm going to save it by clicking on the Save button. That's how you set up customers. Now remember, if you want to give us your customers from your old program, your old ERP package, you just need to send us to them in Excel format or some other readable format, and we can bring these customers in. This is to show you how to set up a new customer. This is the third video. Our next video will be setting up vendors and vendor contacts. Excuse me. Thank you for your time, and please view our other videos.